Okay, is this any better? Can you all hear me now? Hopefully you can. If not, I'm going to have to switch back to my webcam. So, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Yes or no? Anybody? Anybody? Still no sound? Hmm. Let me see what is going on. Okay, you can hear me. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because I was going to say, what else do I need to do? Good. Perfect. You guys can hear me. I do appreciate that. So let me start all over again. I switched out my camera and I checked to make sure that it was obviously working and made the mistake of not checking the sound because I'm using this new platform and it doesn't do the same thing that the other one did, where all of that pops up and lets me know whether or not you can hear me and all of that stuff. So thank you guys for letting me know there was no sound. So now I have that all taken care of. So again, thank you guys for stopping by. Welcome. My name is Shirley. This is Shirley Threadwork. And tonight is Tuesday, so it must be Wind Down Tuesday with Shirley. And thank you guys for stopping by. I was basically saying, I do appreciate you all coming in tonight because I know I missed 2 weeks. The first week I missed is because of my eye surgery. As you guys know, I had the left eye done first, then I had the right eye done, and I was doing some recuperation from that. And then, of course, last Tuesday was a holiday, and I was busy with holiday cooking and all of that. So I'm back tonight, and I'm glad you guys are back here with me. So thank you so much. And I put on this white thing, and it just got me all shining and bright. And I don't know. It's a white hoodie. It does have writing and whatever. I put some rhinestone and stuff on here, but you can't see it because of the camera not adjusting down like that. Well, maybe you can see it now. I just wanted to didn't want all this just light just shining in your face like that. It's like my goodness, look like I got on a robe or something, getting ready to go be. Anyway, thank you guys. I want to say hello to everybody out there in YouTube land and Facebook land. Thank you for stopping by. And also to everybody that will be watching the replay, I do appreciate your support in everything. And if there's anything that is of interest to you and you like coming to my channel and you're not joined, please join and subscribe and all of that and follow me because I do enjoy doing this. So tonight we are going to talk about something that I think is very important. I tell you, I had put in my little narrative that I was going through Facebook and YouTube and just trying to come up with ideas of what to talk about tonight. And I ran across a couple of things where people were asking questions that I felt were, they're very good questions, information that you need to know, but sometimes you make the assumption that everybody kind of knows the basics, and we have new people that are just getting involved in embroidery and crafting, what have you, and using their machines and stuff. And then we have people that may have forgotten some of the things, some of the basics or whatever, or really never learned them. So I decided, let's talk about embroidery and let's talk about the things that we need to know in order to make sure that we definitely have good outcome when we're doing a project. And I have to tell you, back to this cataract thing, I can see clearly distance now, like what I was hoping to be able to do. I can actually drive without putting on glasses and all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of cool. Haven't done that in a long, long time. But I can't see a darn thing up close. So that is really stressing. Well, I'm not gonna say stressing me out, but I'm not very happy about that because I might end up having to wear glasses anyway. So I'm going to put my little trusted readers on so I can read. Because if I don't put these readers on, I can't see a doggone thing. And that is just not cool. Because I'm constantly putting them on and off, on and off, on and off. And it's getting on my nerves. So before I get started, let me go through the list and say hi to everybody that has dropped in so far. And I got kind of off base because of the no sound. So Kingsbury Craft, how you doing? Robin, how are you? And who else? Jenny, how are you? Let me see who else. Soul Pearl Creation have dropped in. Let me see who else is in here. And Carol, how are you? Thank you for dropping by. And let me see. I think that's all of the ones that have shown up on here that are online so far. I know there are other people who just aren't in the chat yet, but like I said, want to say hi to everybody. So, what we're talking about is doing and learning what we need to do. And the first thing you need to do is start out with stitching, 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 stitching. And we're diving into a topic that every embroiderer needs to know, whether you're new or whether you've been doing this for a while. And I know there's a lot of you out there that watch me that know way more about embroidery than I do. But one thing that I do know, because, excuse me, I am guilty of it too. Oftentimes we learn things, we get comfortable, and then we kind of drop off and start doing our own thing and not really paying attention to what the embroidery rules are, and then sometimes we get ourselves in trouble because we didn't do what we're supposed to do. So the topic is how to improve your embroidery skills and crucial things we need to know for perfect stitching. Why does stitch quality matter? Well, you may say, well, that's an obvious question. Answer to that question is that if you don't have the quality stitching, the item, the garment, or whatever is not going to look good. But how do we go about making sure that we have quality stitching? That's the thing. Um, it doesn't matter what kind of machine you have or anything like that. You can have the newest, the latest, the greatest. But it is the knowledge that you have about how to use that machine. And I'm not just talking about the functions on the machine. I'm talking about what you have to do to put into the machine. You have to know your fabric, your stabilizer, your thread, your needle, and your digitizer, as well as your machine, and how all that works together. It's just like a recipe. Those are the ingredients. If you don't use all of those ingredients in your project, then you're going to have a bad outcome. There's no way around it. If one ingredient is off, then the whole thing is off. And you're going to say, well, Shirley, that's not necessarily true. Well, yeah, it is. If you stop and think about some of the boo-boos that we all have made, and when we go back and check what happened or why it happened or, what could have possibly been a problem, oftentimes you can find that either you didn't have the right stabilizer, it wasn't hooped, a bad needle, your tension was off, things that cause to have bad out, and you have to be able to recognize that and do the things that you need to do to prevent that or correct it. The most important thing is to be able to recognize what the problem is, because you can't correct it if you don't recognize what the problem is. So I'm going to foundation, and the foundation. And the reason I brought this up because someone specifically was asking about needles. And as we all know, there are so many needles out there, different sizes, different points, all of that. Do we know what they're for? Do we even use them? Do we have a supply of multiple needles? Or do we just stick to just one needle and that takes care of everything? I have to tell you, when I first, very, very first started using my uh, multi-needle machine, I had a different machine, used commercial needles, the ones all the way around. Now, I'm not going to say where I got this from, but one of the people that I watched pretty often said, well, I only put 9014 needles in my machine and I do everything with a 9014. So naturally, me being new, that's what I did. I stuck a 9014 needle in all of my needles and was stitching everything that I touched with the 9014. And then I started having issues with the outcome. And I was talking to the tech person and they started asking me questions. And one of the things was needle. And the person said, why do you have a 9014 needle in your machine? Why are you using 9014 for everything? I remember that because I thought, what difference does it make? This is what the person said they use, so it's what I'm going to use. Well, as we probably all know now, you don't need to and you should not use a 9014 needle for everything that you stitch. That is a needle. You don't need that. So let's begin with one of the most underrated tools, and that are needles. Most stitch problems come from the wrong needle or either an old needle. Do we change our needles like we're supposed to? Not just when it breaks. Do we know when we're supposed to change a needle? So I'm going to talk about the types of needles and what we need to. And I see Marina. Hi, Marina. How you doing? And you say saying prayers to the sewing and embroidery gods is always key. Yes, to make sure that it works. And you say you love Dimes Embroiderers Conference. It's a great resource. And it is. And I don't think I have mine. I used to have it in my other uh, home right at my fingertips where I could just grab it and pull it out. But I don't have it sitting out anywhere right now. So I agree with that. If you guys do not know what the embroiderer's compass is, it's a tool, a little round disc that spins around. And I'm steady looking to see if it's anywhere close by. But it tells you what needle to use for what particular project, the material, um, even the type of design, all of that. And if you have embrilliance, I know embrilliance is one, and I'm sure other software probably has this feature as well, but I can't speak on what I use, and that's embrilliance. Up in the tool, there is a section, and I can't remember which icon is under. There is a guide. If you click on it, it will do the exact same thing that the Dimes Compass does. You can look up and find out what needle you need to be using, what stabilizer you need to be using, for what particular fabric you're using, and what the density of your design is. So do not forget that. There are tools out there that will let you know what to do to help you. So, back to the types of needle. The number one most used everyday hero needle is a 7511. 7511 is the size of the needle, and that is great for about 90% of the projects that you do. It has a clean eye and a smooth shaft. The shaft is the long part. And the needles have grooves in it that the thread goes down into and into the eye. So if you have a smooth shaft and a clean eye, that is going to work in 7511. Now the 7511 depicts the English and the European number. I forget what is what. I whether The law, I don't remember if the 11 is the, let me look it up right quick because I know that's what it's for. Um, just thought about it. I could have looked this up earlier, but I didn't think about it to explain to you what 7511 or what any of those numbers are. And I'm going to Google it right quick. Okay, 75 is the European number, and 11 is the American number. I knew it was one was European and one was American. So that's what it is. That's the reason why you see 75/11. It doesn't have anything to do with it's just the size. It's the size. The European used the larger number, which is 75. So if you were working in Europe somewhere, living there, you probably would see uh, more of the big numbers. And the 11 is the assigned American size, which is the smaller, and it is the most common. And that is what the reason why you see both. So I just wanted to explain that because I always wonder why you have these two numbers. What do they mean? And it's just simply the understanding of the. It's just like metrics, how we don't we use uh, I forgot what they call it, but regular numbers per se, inches and feet and miles, whereas in Europe they use the metric system, which is millimeters, centimeters, kilometers, and so forth, but they're pretty much synonymous. Pretty much, they're off just a little bit as far as the math part is concerned. But with the needles, the 75 is the European number describing the size, and the 11 is the American number. And that would go with your 9014, your 160, all of those. So I just thought that was just a little bit of trivia in case you all did not know what that means. Now you're looking at not only the sizes, because I mentioned several sizes to you just a second ago. You're also looking at the point. So you can have a ballpoint needle and you can have a sharp or a microtech needle. Ballpoint needles are meant for knit fabric, like onesies, t-shirts, leggings, hoodies. They prevent holes and runs because they don't cut the thread. They kind of go in between the fabric. So it just kind of glides in between. It's not cutting like a sharp. A sharp is like cutting through. So that's what ballpoint needles are for. So keep that in mind. Not only do you need to have the right size needle, you need to have the right point needle if you want to have success. And again, ballpoint needles are for knits, t-shirts, leggings, hoodies, anything that is knitted, onesies, things like that. Your sharp or microtech, because that question came up, what is a microtech? Microtech, sharp, same thing. They're for more dense woven fabrics. Now keep in mind you can have the sizes either ballpoint or sharp. You can have a 7511 ballpoint, you can have a 7511 sharp. You can have 80/20. I mean 80/12. Yeah, 80/12 ballpoint or sharp, and so forth and so on. Now your sharp needle for tote bags, canvas, denim, vinyl, cork. Why? Because it's going to make a smaller hole and it's going to penetrate. It's going to, lack of a better word, cut. It's going to punch a hole in it. Whereas a ballpoint is just going to smoothly go in between the woven or the knit part. The sharp is for woven, the ballpoint is for knit fabric. Now you also have top stitch, or you can have a metallic needle. What is a top stitch? The top stitch needle has a larger eye and it prevents the shredding. So if you're going to do any type of top stitching, which if you make bags or anything like that, you're going to definitely do top stitching. If you're doing, let me see, a perfect example of a top, you can't see it because it's white. Anyway, think about the seams when you're on a pair of jeans and that extra stitch that goes down the seam. That's why I can explain. I don't have jeans here. Let me see, I don't have anything here that has a top stitch that I can grab. But anyway, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's the top stitch on top of the fabric after you've already put the seam together. I guess is the best way to describe it. And it has a larger eye. Your metallic needle, um, again, can be just a bigger needle. Now, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be specifically listed metallic because when you start buying these needles, you're going to be looking at the size. You're going to be looking at whether it's a sharp or a ballpoint. Now, yes, you can get jean needles. You can get leather needles, vinyl needles. I got this. I got tons of needles. I have G needles in here. I have metallic needles in here. My G needles, I'm looking at 100/16. My metallic needle I have in here is 80/20. So they're always going to be bigger. Let me see, I got more needles. More. This jean needle, yeah, I said 110. Now, one of my jean needles is size 116, and then I have this one that is Smith, both of them are Smiths, and this one is 110/18. I have Microtech needles. This one is like a 60 and a 70. I didn't even know I had these small needles. Anti-glue, still connected with a 75/11, so that you know that you can get all of these. They have your universal needle, and this particular one says universal, but it's a 70/10. So you can get all of these different needles with these different names on it, different descriptions and everything. But the most important thing that you need to look at is the size of the needle and whether it's a ballpoint or a sharp. That's the point that I'm trying to make. You need to look at the size and you need to look at what type of point it has. All of the different names that you get, metallic, leather, vinyl, anti-glue, all of that kind of stuff. Those things are important, yes, but the main important thing that you need to look at, again, like I said, is your size and what it is that you're going to be stitching. So I also talked about 90/14, and that's for thick fabrics or dense designs. That's the other thing. If you have a very dense design, then you need a bigger needle. You wonder sometimes why my needle break or why is the thread breaking. The first thing you need to check is your needle. Check your needle. When was the last time you changed your needle? How many of you, and I'd like for you guys to be honest and answer this question, how many of you change your needle every time you start a new project, or at least every 8 to 10 hours of usage? Now, I know that could be difficult for some of us to gauge because if we don't do um, projects where we're selling things, where we're working on a machine all day long, you may do a project and it only took you 2 hours or 3 hours. And no, you don't need to change the needle again the next time you do a project, even though it's a different project. You don't have to change it because why? You only did something for 2 or 3 hours, or even 4 or 5 hours. But were you stitching completely, continuously for that length of time? That's what you have to think about when you're using your needle. How long have I actually done stitching? I have I have a little booklet that I use, courtesy of Jeanette. Jeanette sent one year she sent this little notebook out to everybody that participated in her Elster, and I use this to record my needles when I change them. I write down the date, the number on my machine, whether it was needle 1 through 10, and I also write down the type or size of the needle. I write down whether it was a 7511, ballpoint or sharp, was it a metallic, was it a 65-9, which I use. As you guys may know, that is perfect for using for when you're stitching small lettering and you're using a 60 weight thread. Jeanette talks about that a lot because she does that a lot because of the logos and things that she does. When I say Jeanette, I'm sure most of you all know what is Baroka Sewing and Crafting is her channel. But anyway, when she does her logos and stuff, and she's doing small letters and stuff, she's always using a 65-9. I use 65-9 as well, and I do use 60 weight thread. You can use bobbin thread. This is a big spool of black bobbin thread, 60 weight. I bought this spool when I first started embroidering because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that I wasn't going to be winding my bobbin. So I bought this black spool and I bought a white spool, and I still have them. But I'm glad that I bought them because now when I'm doing lettering, I just know that I can do black or white because I have my 60 weight cone thread that I can put on and use my 75-9 needle. But I record, like I said, in my little booklet, every time I change my needle, I put in here when I changed it. I got all my little, I don't know if you can see it, but all my little notes in here, what I put in here, when I changed it, what I changed it to, on what number, what have you. That way I'm not wasting my needles because I know how long it's been there. And you know, I can go a whole month without changing a needle if I'm not using that needle that often, or if I don't think I put 8 hours worth on one needle. But then also when I'm doing a lot of desk work and I know that I'm constantly stitching, then when I finish that project, I'm going to change my needle. I did some burlap totes, and when I burlap totes, my screen designs, um, any my denim purse anything like that where I know that I'm putting a lot of work on a needle, I'm going to change that needle. And if I've used multiple colors and stuff, I'm going to change all the needles that I use. Oftentimes, I end up changing all of my needles at one time because that just keeps everything straight for me. But the most important thing, whether you use this if you have one or something similar, have you some kind of record where you can keep up with when you change the needles and what you changed it to, and all things like that. That way, you won't be wasting your needles, and you'll know exactly when you're supposed to change your needle, and that will keep everything rolling for you pretty good. So when you start having thread breaks, when your thread starts shredding, when you start having bird nests, what else? When you have loops, when you have bad stitches or skip stitches, in my head, the first thing I think about is my knee. I have a process that I go through. It's a list of things that I check. The first thing, well, it's two things that I do first. I check my needle throat plate or the needle plate. I check that. I take the screws out and I go in there in that area and I look for any kind of lint, thread, or what have you. You will be surprised how one little string of, of thread or lint caught up in your cutter area can mess up all of your stitching. You can get skip stitches, loops, all kinds of stuff just from that one little piece of lint. So that's the first thing I do is check that. If that doesn't take care of it, then the needle is the second thing that I do. Then check, while I'm doing all that, I'm checking my thread path. I'm checking to make sure everything is threaded correctly, that it's sitting where the tensions are supposed to be, all of that. I check all of those things. Naturally, I oil my machine, my bobbin, every time I turn it on. Every time I turn it on, my machine tells me to do that, and it has become a habit. It is to turn it on, oil the bobbin. I don't do nothing else until I oil the bobbin. That's the first thing I do when I turn it on is oil my bobbin. Why? Because that's what they told me to do, and that's what I do, and that helps. But if you know your machine, you pay attention to your machine will tell you what's wrong with it. It'll talk to you by the sounds that it makes. It will make different types of sewing noise. You can get a loud noise, or you can get some type of noise that it doesn't sound like it's running smooth. It's the best way I can explain it. It just has a different sound to it. That's what tells me something's not quite right. And that's when I start going into my investigation mode to figure out what's going on with my machine and what should I do. And like I said, the first thing that I'm looking at seriously are my needles. I just ordered a bunch of needles. They had I'm trying to remember who All Stitch. That's who I ordered it from. All Stitch just had a Black Friday, I believe it was, sale, 20% off of your entire purchase or whatever. But they had needles at a very, very good price, and I ordered up a bunch of needles. I ordered up 7511s and I believe 8012s because those are the sizes I use the most. And I got sharps and I got ball points. So I'm in good shape for needles for a while. I managed to catch that. So let me see what you guys are saying about needles. I see Robin, you say you changed your needles. Hi, how are you? And hi, Maria, how are you as well? And Deborah, who else has stopped in that I haven't spoken to? I think that's everybody. Hi, LP. How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. Hi, how are you? Let's see. Okay. Robin, you said sometimes you have to change your needle twice when you're doing a quilt. Yes, because that's a lot. I know you do. And Soul Pearl Creations says she uses titanium needles and not constantly running the machine like that. So good. So that means you don't have to change it too often. But again, For those of us that may do a little bit extra stitching, and I ebb and flow. Sometimes I don't do a whole lot, and sometimes I'm stitching like crazy. Every time I turn around, it just depends. Marina, it depends on how dense the designs. Let me see if I can put it up here. It depends how dense the designs. I've been stitching throughout the entire project. With some Kimmerbell or Juju projects that are longer, and then you'll change midway through. And who else is there? Deborah, you said uh, you change your meters when you're doing a large project, otherwise only if it breaks. Okay, okay. And Marina, you said when things go off the rail, I check the bobbin area first, rethread, and then the needle. Good, good, good. And definitely listen to your machine. The sounds will always be the first warning sign. Yes, that is true. Thanks for confirming that, because that is true. It does talk to you. It will let you know something is not right. So learn the sounds of your machine. Pay attention to it. If that stitching sound sounds a little off, a little different, a little louder, a little clankier or clunkier or whatever, then that they're telling you something. And normally it is the needle. 9 times out of 10, it is the needle telling you, I'm tired. I need some rest. I need to be rescued. Hi, Sean. How are you? How you doing? And Carol, you said tiny pieces of thread. Where are you? Tiny thread pieces are deceptively evil. Once caught under my heavy industrial straight stitch machine bobbin can totally stop my beast of a machine. And you know that is really, really scary, but so, so true. One little bitty piece of thread can get in the wrong spot and jack up everything. Everything. Hi, pretty eyes. How are you? Thank you for stopping by. Um, so I did. mm, Ooh, sorry about this. I hope it's not messing you guys up. I was trying to find my my little presentation that I had. I wrote things down and put it in a PowerPoint because I wanted you guys to be able to see it on the screen, copy it down, or what have you. And I am forgetting, there it is, where to go to pull it up. So there we go. And that's just screen. You've already cut. And why stitches matter. First stitching starts with knowledge, and the knowledge again is fabric, stabilizing thread, and of course digitizing does matter. That's very important as well. So, okay, what's the next one? Now, I talked a little bit about needles, so if you want to copy this down, 7511 embroidery needles is a universal choice, and that's 90% of everything that you're going to need to stitch with will be using that size. Don't forget ballpoints are for knits. Microtech is for dense woven fabric. Top stitch is metallic or thread, and change every 8 to 10 hours. Every 8 to 10 hours. So that is um, depending upon how often you're using it. And again, like I said, every 8 to 10 hours. That doesn't mean every 8 to 10 hours on the clock. It means every 8 to 10 hours of usage. So I'm not telling you you have to change your needle every day, because I don't. Like I said, there are times when I haven't changed my needle for a whole month because I haven't done that much stitching, and I know that I have not used it that long. So I don't need to change. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about threads, and I'm going to take this off because I don't really want this up the whole time. Trying to figure out how to get it down. Well, I'll get it down. Where is the remove? Let's see. No, that's not what I want to do. Sorry about this, you guys, but I'm trying to get it down. There we go. There we go. I think I got it figured out. Next thing I want to talk about is thread. Thread quality, behavior, and the metallic thread rule. Metallic thread rule. That's something important that you need to remember. So there are different types of thread. And thread is the paint of embroidery. Cheap thread will give you cheap results. I have learned to pay attention to my machine again, and everybody's machine acts differently. And whether you know it or not, your machine will let you know whether or not they like that. You know, they're finicky like cats. It will let you know whether or not it likes the thread. It doesn't like every brand that's out there. I learned that when I started, first starting, I was using my SE 1900, and I bought a bunch of thread off of Amazon. I bought the Sim thread, beautiful thread, still had it, and I've used it uh, occasionally. I've used it on my 10 needle machine, but my single needle SE 1900 hated that thread. It just broke. Every time I was stitch a little bit, then it would break. Stitch a little bit, it would break. Same thing with the metallic thread that I bought off of Amazon. Beautiful, very a lot of sheen, looks really pretty, but that metallic thread breaks. So pay attention to your machine. My 10 needle machine, a little bit more forgiving. It will work with practically every thread that I put on it. So that part makes me feel good, but pay attention to your machine. But again, if it's cheap thread, you're going to not get the best result. You need to figure out what brand you like. And I'm not saying you got to stick to one brand. And I'm not saying you got to get the most expensive brand. But try to find a brand of thread that you like with the colors that you like and it gives you the result that you're looking for. I don't switch and swap and trade threads that much. I started off with a Metro EMB thread. Beautiful thread, bought the whole set. Back back in the day when I bought it, I think I got 120 or 30 some odd spools of thread. And I know I didn't pay $100 for it. I don't even remember what I paid for it. But it was relatively inexpensive. It was recommended. I got it. And I still use it. Beautiful thread. Beautiful thread stitches well. I don't buy Metro EMB anymore for two reasons. One, they run out a lot because a lot of people use it. I guess a lot of people uses it because it is economical and it stitches well. The turnout is pretty good, and I haven't had any issues with it. But I would go back to try to get a spool of this or a spool of that, and they had it. So that caused some concern. So I haven't bought any more from them. I have bought sulky thread because that's what they sold out of Joanne, and I would just pick up a few colors that I like. Their thread I like. I don't buy a lot. Madeira thread, I've never been a big Madeira thread for two reasons. One, I think the thread is expensive. And two, I know that shipping is very, not, yeah, the shipping charge. They don't tell you what the shipping charge, at least they didn't. I haven't bought from them in a while. They won't tell you the shipping charge until after the fact. So you say, yes, I want to buy it, and your bill is $150, but they still didn't add the shipping charge to it. So when they charge your card, you could be paying $50 for shipping. And it's like, no, $50 for shipping. I could have gone somewhere else and got it cheaper. So I stopped buying from there. Um, because I don't know why they did it that way. They never would give you the final price. And I don't know if anybody else had that issue with them. And this is buying directly from Madeira. Now you can buy Madeira thread at other places that do it totally different. But I just kind of got away from Madeira because of that, and I just started not buying Madeira thread. I don't know when or where or how I was introduced to Floriani. But once I start buying Floriani thread, I fell head over heels in love with Floriani. So that's my go-to thread. I buy 99% of my thread, and I'm trying to build up my colors and collection. I have quite a few. But 99% of the thread that I use is Madeira thread. On top of the Metro EMB that I accumulate and I still have. So I have a few Sophies, I have a few Madeira, I have a few, I have about two, three Hemsworth. Um, that's pretty much it. I don't think I have any other brands. I may have, but if I do, it's only one or two schools. But my go-to brand is Loriani because I love how it stitches. I love the results and I love the colors. It's a beautiful sheen. That's just from me. What I'm recommending is you find that sweet spot thread, whatever it is. There's a bunch of them out there, and they're really good threads. And then kind of stick with it, so you'll know what the results are going to be. Because when you're switching here and switching there, and you got this color and that color and what have you, this brand, that brand, it's kind of hard to stay consistent, especially if you're doing something to sell and people want multiple items alike and you don't know what thread brand you use. So you may have a red from Madeira and a red from Floriani and they don't match and you can't get them to match to save your life. But if you're buying all of your threads from one brand, usually you'll be able to keep that color going. And that's one of the other main reasons why I decided to go with Floriani because of my Etsy shop. I want to make sure that every product that I make and put out there, I record the thread number and everything, color number, so I know exactly what color I use for what design and what have you, so I can repeat it and repeat it and repeat it because that's what they saw and that's what they're asking for. So that way you're able to be consistent. Now, there are different kinds of threads, of course. You have polyester thread, which is the most common. It's the strongest, it's color fast and the most versatile, and that's what most people buy. You also have rayon thread. Has a high sheen, it's a softer, and it's a weaker thread. Now, John Deere recommends rayon thread for your freestanding lace. I've tried both rayon and polyester. I don't have any issue with either one. So, as far as I'm concerned, most of my colors are polyester. So my freestanding laces, the projects that I've done with freestanding lace, 90% of them were with polyester. I don't think I've done any with metallic thread yet, but I can. The only concern that I have is that with freestanding lace, you are supposed to have your top thread and your bobbin thread matching. So you have to make sure if you're going to use metallic thread, then your bobbin thread needs to match whatever it is that you're using on top. As far as um, doing a bobbin with metallic thread, I've never done that. I'm sure it can be done, and I'm wondering how that will stick. So if anybody has done that, please let me know and tell me how that worked. I think I asked that question before, and someone said it worked out pretty good, but I've not done it yet. So winding bobbins for me is not the easiest thing to do. But anyway, that's it. The other one is cotton thread. Now I have some cotton thread that I purchased when I started doing quilting. And before Joanne's closed up, I got, they would have buy three, get three free and stuff like that. So I think I bought about 5 or 6, uh, I think about 6 spools of cotton thread. But I only use the cotton thread for quilting. Now I do know that people are moving into out thread that is matte, and usually that is cotton thread. Now you have to keep in mind cotton thread is matte. It's great for the vintage look, but it's very linty. Lint. 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 A lot of lint comes off of cotton thread. So if you're going to use cotton thread, you've got to make sure you keep your bobbin area cleaned out pretty good, whether you're using an embroidery machine or your sewing machine. You gotta keep checking your bobbin area and get all of that lint and dust and strings and all of that stuff out of there, because if you use cotton thread, you're going to get a lot of lint. And like I said, I have been using my cotton thread for quilting only, but I have used it on my 10 meter machine as well as my jazz and also on my SE 1900. So just, and it works well. I don't have any problem with that. It works well. Um, the other thread is metallic thread and variegated. Don't want to leave variegated thread out. Variegated thread is very pretty. I love using variegated thread. I have, here's one roll of Floriani variegated thread that I've used quite a bit. See how pretty that is? See the shine, the sheen on that? And it stitches out. And variegated thread is just different colors on one string. And when you stitch it out, you get a totally different look. It is a very good decorative thread to use to make things look different. I bought, I have quite a few of variegated thread because I bought about 6 or 8 spools out of Joanne. Again, I would catch them where it said buy three, get three free, that kind of stuff. And I would go in there and I get me, 3 of them, pick 3 more, so I got 6 variegated thread. And I also bought a bunch of variegated thread, sim thread off of Amazon, which I've used, and it works well. I haven't had any trouble with that, which is interesting. Um, their regular sim thread that came in the box didn't work well. Their metallic thread, single thread, didn't work well. With the variegated thread, I really didn't have any issues with it. So that's interesting. So metallic thread rule, the 5 S's. Keep this in mind. The first S is slow. Stitch at around 300 to 400 stitches per minute when you're stitching with metallic thread. I can get my machine down, my 10 meter machine down to 400. That's the lowest I can go. and that's what I do. So the first S is slow. Slow your machine down if you want to have good luck with metallic thread. The second S is space. Use a thread stand so it travels further. Make sure it's vertical, which is your third, which is one of the S's, but you want to have space. You want it to go up and down and around. Give it more space and room to unswirl, so to stretch out, because metallic thread is just what it says. It's metal, very, very thin metal with fiber around it. And that's why it breaks and twists and all of that kind of stuff. So if you give it a chance to stretch out and then coming down, you'll have a better result. Specialty needle, that's the third S, specialty needle. Use thread needle or a top stitch needle. Basically what they're saying is a larger eye. A 90-14 needle is preferred. So it needs to have room. The small eye will cause a break, a cut. So specialty needle. Buy metallic thread needle, buy a top stitch needle, or any needle that says 90-14. That's your best bet. The fourth is spool vertical. The metallic thread needs to unwind to be smoother. And then the last S is soften the tension. Drop the top tension down slightly. I've not done that because I don't mess with the tension on my machine that much. But I probably need to pay more attention to that. I really do. Um, but yeah, you need to check the tension. Now, if you have a single needle machine and you have it's computerized where you can actually adjust the tension just by pushing a button and stuff, that's the best way of being able to adjust the tension for your metallic thread. So keep that in mind, especially if you're stitching with a computerized single needle machine that allows you to just change the tension by pushing a button and makes it easier. With the multi-needle machines, you actually have to turn the knobs and stuff. And for me, I don't like messing with the tension unless it is totally whacked off or something's wrong with it, because you don't want your tension to get all jacked up and everything is messed up. I like for my maintenance person when they come in to check the tension and adjust it and make sure everything is cool, and then go from there. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware, but you can do a tension test. I know this machine does a tension test. My SE 1900, so I'm assuming most embroidery machines allow you to do a tension test. And this is an old one, but what it will do, it will, here's the front, and then here's your back. And that's how you look at this one in here is white thread, that's why you can't see it. But anyway, you want your thread to be um, one third, one third white, well, one third bobbin, two-third top, whatever color you have. You want it to be one third bobbin, two-third top when you're checking your tension. So check your tension, use your tension um, checker, tester, or whatever on your machine every once in a while just to check and see what it is. Then you can go and adjust it from there. So let me repeat the rule for metallic thread. Slow your machine down, space it so it'll run longer. Use a specialty needle. Use a vertical if at all possible, because if you have, like if you're on a single needle machine and your thread goes horizontal, Some machines allow you to pull that stick up thread to go vertical, or you can get one of the stands, which is recommended, which I've done, that stands on the side, and it's the tall stand where you can run it up and run it across, and that helps a lot. So do that, and then make sure that your tension is just a slight bit looser, so it won't put so much strain on your thread, and that will help it from breaking. Now, what metallic thread brand works best for you? Have any of you tried different types of metallic thread? Now, I know I mentioned to you that my metallic thread that I bought off of Amazon did not work well. Have I used it? Yes. Did I have issues with it? Yes. I don't think I've used any of it on my tending machine, but I did use the, uh, the metallic threads, two, three different colors, I believe, on my single needle machine, and I would just have breakage. What I like using is Kingstar. I have Madeira, I have Kingstar, and like I said, I have the thread that I got off of, oh, and I have some Floriani. I have Floriani, Madeira, Kingstar, and Amazon or Silk Thread, metallic thread. And out of all four of those, my favorite to use that gives me the least bit of trouble is um, Kingstar. Now, Floriani works pretty good because I'm looking at my thread now and the spool is practically empty, so obviously I use it's expensive. I think back then I paid $20 for one spool of thread that wasn't even bigger than this, and I think it was $20, 19.95, whatever, for Floriani metallic thread, and I bought gold and silver, and I've used both of them quite a bit. Um, until I got to Kingston. My Madeira metallic thread, I'm looking at it now, and the roll is the screws. I got the big cones, and they don't look like they've been touched. And I did try them. I wasn't satisfied with them, so I don't use them. Um, in my Kingston. Now I have to tell you, on the 10 needle machine, you do need to slow it down. You do need to use a metallic thread, and you also need to put the thread on the end. Either um, on this machine, you need to use either number one or two, or 9 and 10. It has to be on the end because if you put it inside, the vibration from the thread and how it twists and turns and stuff will get caught in your other thread. Trust me, I've had that issue, irritated me to death until somebody said, put it on the end. I put it on the end, haven't had an issue with using it since, and from that day on, I always put my metallic thread on one of the spools, and it works perfectly fine. So that's just a tip for anybody that's using metallic thread on a multimeter machine. Now that's for this machine. I don't know about other people's machines. If you have a different experience, let me know. Um, so that's what I wanted to tell you about metallic. So don't forget the 5 S's or the metallic rule, because that's the only way that you're really going to, the best way that you're going to really have a good outcome using metallic thread. And metallic thread is so pretty when you're using it in different designs and stuff, and especially coming up to the holiday, you making your holiday projects and stuff. Certainly, you want to add a little shine in your project and stuff. So get you some metallic thread and try it if you have not done so already. So the next thing is stabilizer science. Stabilizer is the backbone of every project. Stabilizer. But along with stabilizer is hooping. You've got to have the right stabilizer, and you have to hoop correctly. You don't, because that's how you start. That's the foundation. You don't need to use thread, needle, anything until you hooped your hoop with your stabilizer. So you got to know what stabilizes. Stabilizer decisions are half the battle. So I remember when I first started embroidery, the saying was if you wear it, don't tear it. And they're talking about don't use tearaway stabilizer if you're going to put it on something that you wear. And that's still true. If you're going to wear it or anything that's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of usage and stuff, you really don't want to use um, tearaway stabilizer. Cutaway stabilizer is your go-to for stretchy fabrics. If the fabric stretches, then cutaway is the answer. Tearaway is for stable fabrics. Towels, canvas, quilting, cotton, any of those kinds of things. I use on my t-shirts, my hoodies, and all that kind of stuff. And I use not tearaway, cutaway. I'm sorry, cutaway. Tearaway is for stable fabric, but your cutaway fabric is for that stretching. So tearaway, it says you can use it on towel, canvas, quilting cotton. You can use that. Wash away, water soluble, stabilize for lace or plush fabrics. Freestanding lace. You need to use a freestanding lace, a freestanding when you're using a freestanding lace design project, then you need to use a wash away stabilizer. And I use violin, and I'm getting ready to show you what it looks like. This is, believe it or not, a wash away stabilizer. This is violin. This is what it looks like. It looks like paper, it looks like regular stabilizer, but it actually washes away. And this is a 12 by 10 yard, and I get this from Amazon. I think it's about 10, $18, I guess. I don't know, I don't remember. But this is what I use. And I use this for well, basically, I use it for all of my freestanding letters. And I also use it for my screens, the designs that I do the screen. Um, That's pretty much what I use it for. Now, when I'm doing topping for towels and blankets and what have you, things that have a pile or a nap, I don't use my violin. I use regular, clear uh, stabilizer that looks like the plastic. That's what I use. Um, Now, an alternative from violin, if you're doing freestanding lace, would be Sophie's Ultra Solving because it's real thick and it works pretty good as well. But that would be the only other um, water soluble stabilizer that I would even recommend for freestanding lace. But for me, my go-to is this violin. I love it. It stitches well. You only need one um, layer, and I've not had any problem at all. And when I'm done with my design, it stays together, it doesn't fall apart. I don't have any issues with it. It just works. Um, the plastic, like I said, is for minky, fleece, towels, blankets, anything that has a nap or a pile. If you're not doing a knockdown stitch. If you do a knockdown stitch, then you don't have to use a topper. But if you're not doing knockdown stitch, you definitely need to put a water soluble topper on it. And like I said, I use one that looks like plastic and have anything close by. The other stabilizer that I use that is pretty much my go-to forever and ever and ever. I love it. I use it practically for everything. Is my poly no-show mesh. I love this stuff. I have it in black. I have it in white. I have it in different lengths. Um, I also found some beige um, They don't harm it. It's hard to find beige. But this is what I use. I use this, and I get it off of Amazon. I don't go anywhere special to buy it. I get it off of Amazon. But this is what I use: the poly no-show mesh. Why? Because like this, something you want to be able to. It's soft. It's pliable. See, nobody's gonna. You're not gonna have that breastplate up here like you do when you're using the more porous paper type of colorway stabilizer. When I first started embroidering, I didn't know anything about no show poly mesh, and I was embarrassed. I made a couple of things, and I mean, I'm grinning and cheesy thing, and I had done a wonderful job, and everything was all cute and everything, and I actually gave some things away as a promotion and stuff, and didn't realize it was a hot mess because you celebrate the stabilizer through the shirt. Right across the chest, you can see the stabilizer all cut out. There's the stabilizer today. I didn't know any better. I know better. So you live and learn. I don't use anything but the no-show mesh when I'm doing t-shirts and hoodies or anything that the potential of seeing the stabilizer through. And it works well. Every now and then, depending upon how dense my um, design is, I may double it. But 90% of the time I don't. I don't feel the need to double it, and it works well. Um, it says it's perfect for t-shirts, baby clothing, and light colors, and that is true. So know your stabilizer, and don't be caught up in brand recognition. I don't think there's a difference in the brand. I have gotten all of my stabilizer off of Amazon. Every once in a while, I've gotten some name brand per se stabilizer, and I've not been able to tell the difference between stabilizer. It's the type of stabilizer, the thickness of the stabilizer, not the brand. John Deere, which we all know who John Deere is, has mentioned several times that there's only a couple of places that make manufacture stabilizers, period. And they manufacture the stabilizer and put the brand names on it and ship it out. Like a lot of products that we buy, brand name stuff, but it's coming from the same place. You go into the grocery store and you buy a name brand product or a store name product, and you know the price is going to be different. But don't be surprised to find out they were manufactured and penned in the same factory or box or whatever it is in the exact same place. It's just the brand name is always going to cost more. So keep that in mind. If you have a brand name that you like, that you're comfortable with, that's fine. No big deal. Go for it. But if not, just keep in mind, trust the Amazon and you get it the next day or two. If you're running low, order it, get it, or put it on subscription. Which I have some things I have on subscription that I know I use a lot. That comes every month, every other month, every 3 months, however you set it up, and then you never run out. So I'm pretty much always up on my stabilizer and everything because I have it coming often. So that's the stabilizer thing. Now, quick question for you all to ponder: do you get confused when you have with the stabilizer? And I see my son has popped on here. And soap pearl creation, you said superior thread has great cotton thread and variegated thread. That's good. And Jenny, you said You ordered organ needles for metallic thread 9014 116, and that you should get them on Saturday. Yes. I use organ needles as well. Matter of fact, in the manual for the 10 needle brother machine, they recommend organ. I don't know if anybody has seen that, but they do. Carol said machines are like cats. That is true. Well, Finicky, I think I said that. And let me see anything else I missed. Oh, Jenny, I'm sorry about your allergies and stuff. I guess you're probably gone by now. You'll watch the rest later and see us tomorrow. Okay, feel better, Jenny. And Soul Pearl Creation, you pay $65 for a roll because it was recommended for thousands at the time. I didn't know any better. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, people will tell you this is better than that, and so forth and so on. And the only thing that I have basically seen is stabilize is the packaging. Some packaging is better than other. It makes you think that it's a better product. I don't know that to be true. I know. Well, I'm not even gonna mention names. There are several design companies that I purchase designs from pretty often. Several of them, not just one. It's several of them, and they have their own brand name stabilizers and stuff. They're a little bit more expensive than what you can get off of Amazon. I have used one of the companies. It was gifted to me, and I tried it. I liked it because I think I've used them all, but I didn't, and I used them because how they were packaged and they were convenient and all that kind of stuff. Uh, but I honestly did not see a difference in the end product, and that's what matters. Did it make a difference in the end product? I didn't see that. So, my recommendation is, you know, do what you're comfortable with. Do what you're comfortable with, but just keep in mind it has been stated that there's really no difference in stabilizers versus brands. Now, as far as your thickness, because you got medium, lightweight, all of that makes a difference. And of course, you need to make sure that you're using your cutaway when you're supposed to. If you wear it, don't tear it. If you're using your tearaway like you should, or if you're using no-show no-show poly mesh, or if you're using water soluble. Those are your choices. Now they have the heat away or the melt away stabilizer. I've tried it, not so happy with it. Uh, you also can get this thick backing for patches. Works pretty good. I do have some stabilizers that I think I got from the deer several years ago that are cut out for caps, and I love using that. I had so many of them that I'm not had to buy anymore because I don't do that many hats or caps. But I like the fact that they're already cut out and they fit right up in the cap and everything on your machine and everything. So I don't have to do any cutting and everything. So I'm spoiled with that. I also buy the 8x8 squares that are already cut out for like when I'm doing Left Chef logos. But you can buy so many of those. I mean, you get packets of 200s, which I have black, I have white, I have no show mesh, I have regular cutaway. So and then I have I think it's 8x12 size that I was using mainly when I was using my single needle machine. So I have various types of stabilizers that I have bought over time. that I've used, but none of them have been the so-called branded one. I'm pretty sure all of them have come from Amazon. So um, make your decision on that. Now we're going to talk about fabric, fabric behavior, what your fabrics to do. Fabric has its own personality. Some behave beautifully and some of them fight back. I know you've heard Jeanette mention about, because she does mostly custom orders, and people would bring their products over to her to stitch, and she says there are some things that she refused to embroider on. I've been in that boat as well, and I agree with that 100% because sometimes the fabric is not up to par for embroidery, especially what you may want to put on it. You do not want to put a very dense design on a t-shirt or on satin, organza, or anything like that. You have to match the design and the density with the fabric. If you don't, you're not going to come up with a good result. Um, you got stretch fabrics, you have lightweight fabrics, you have thick fabrics, you have um, the ones with naps. You have so many different types of fabrics, and you can't treat them all the same. So you have to make sure you understand your fabric and what it needs. Like stretch fabric needs cutaway and a ballpoint needle. Light fabric needs support and a good underlay. In thick fabric, you need to slow down and use a sharp needle. So those are some of the things that we have to think about when we're looking at fabric. So for me, back to what Marina said a while ago, I recommend getting, if you don't already have one, that dime embroiderer's compass and use it because it will keep you safe. If you just look it up, it's a wheel. And if you just look up what you're doing. What fabric do I have? What design do I have? It will tell you exactly what needle you want, what size you want, what the point needs to be, and the stabilizer that you need for this particular fabric. That fabric guide or project guide that's in Embreeze does the exact same thing. I go to those tools often, especially when I'm working on fabric that I'm not that familiar with, or I'm working on a design that I think may be a little iffy or tricky, especially if it is something that is dense, because you don't like John Deere uses the word bulletproof or breastplate, one of the two, but you don't want this thick mountain of design sitting there and it doesn't move. You can literally can't even get through it. It doesn't bend, it doesn't do anything. It's just so thick with thread that it's not even going to be cute on the person because it's just going to stand out. It's going to stand out. It's almost like you put a patch on it because you can't bend it. You can't ball it up. You can't. It's not flexible. You can't do this stuff with it. And when you're wearing something, you want to be able to do that. So you want to make sure that you're using the right thread, but you're also using the right design on uh, the right fabric. They need to match up. If they don't match up, you're not going to have a good end result. So keep that in mind. Make sure that it's something that you're doing all the time. Is checking your fabric, checking your design, and checking your needle and your thread. Make sure that they all together. It goes back to the first thing that I said about the recipe. about the ingredients. If you don't have all the ingredients correct, then you're not going to have the right outcome. If one ingredient is off, the whole thing is off. You got to make sure that all those things match up. Hooping. Now, that is something that almost made me quit embroidery. Hooping. Again, when you're first starting off and you don't know, I wanted to practice on tile. It was recommended get a bunch of towels and practice on them. They're cheap, and even if you mess them up, you can still use them, which is true, exactly what I did. However, part of that statement wasn't clear to me because it wasn't explained that hooping a towel is almost impossible. How many of you actually physically hoop a towel that don't use magnetic um, hoops? When I had when I was using my SE 1900, my very first machine, and I'm practicing, I spent, I know, an hour at least trying to hoop a tile. I was so tired. I was so frustrated. I couldn't believe it. I didn't have the strength to get it hooped correctly. It just wore me out. You said, that don't make no sense. Yeah, it wore me out to the point where I was like, I can't do this. This is not fun. This is too much work. I didn't know at the time that you could float it. I didn't know at the time that they did have magnetic hoops for single needle machines. I didn't know those kinds of things. I just literally thought that I had to put the stabilizer in there and the towel and press those two pieces together and get them lined up correctly and all of that kind of stuff, centered and all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't do it. I didn't have the strength to get it done. You want to, anyway, it was just a mess for me. So hooping was not fun. And I finally discovered floating and magnetic, and that just gave me a whole new lease on life, or lease on embroidery. And it saved me. It honestly saved my embroidery journey because I was about to give up. I really said, this is not working for me. This is not something I can do because it was too frustrating. It was too stressful, and it wasn't fun because it was too much work. So hooping is very important. And if you don't know how to hoop well, you're not going to be successful with whatever it is that you're trying to make. So you've got to be able to hoop well and hoop where you don't get caught. Puckering is the number one thing that ruins a project. Have you stitched out something that was absolutely gorgeous? The stitching, you're looking at the stitching, the satin stitching, the run stitches, the field stitches, everything is coming out beautiful. The colors are wonderful. The design is cute. And when you get done, you see all this puckering around. And you just like, well, I be doggone. Why is this thing so puckered? Why is it so puckered? Well, let me tell you what we do. Because I did it too. Stretching the fabric, and when you put those two pieces together, these plastic hoops back here, you tend to stretch. And we were taught to make it taut, thump it, and get that drum sound. So we make it as tight as possible, and you're yanking on it and pulling it and carrying on, and you're stretching it all out of shape. And then once it shrinks back, it's all puckered because you just jacked it up when you hooped it. You're not supposed to do that. If you're gonna stretch anything, if you're gonna taunt anything, it needs to be the stabilizer. That's what you can do. But your fabric that you're putting in there, your design, you have to stick. Go ahead and line it up and everything, but you don't pull on it. You don't move it. You put it in there naturally. Put the top down on it. Same thing if you're using magnetic, which is what I use. Magnetic makes it so much easier to get it hooped correctly. But if you're still using your plastic hoops and everything, then just keep in mind you don't want to stretch that fabric. If you don't have enough stabilizer or the right stabilizer, you will get puffing because you don't have that stability. It has to be a stable thing. So you got to make sure that it's correct. If you start stitching and it looks like it's kind of wonky and wonky, you literally can't add stabilizer to it. You can take the um, hoop off, turn it over, and put you another piece of stabilizer on the back of it, tape it down, and then put it back on there and keep stitching. I've done that before. It works. You just got to stabilize it a little bit more. It's not enough stabilizer there. I've done that. I've also done where I put a top on it, water soluble. You want to do that. Another thing you can do is do a binding um, base around it to keep your stuff from shifting and moving. These are some of the things that you can do to make sure you don't get that shifting, because if you get the shifting and moving around in the machine, you're going to get off register, it's not going to stitch correctly, and you're going to have either it's going to be off register and not done correctly, or you're going to have puffing. If your design is too, if the density is too high, because it has drawn everything up. It's just I've had stuff that just look ridiculous and it's all tight and balled up and not and look like you got a fist right there in the middle. Um, you're gonna get this puckering all the way around it because it's just grabbed the fabric and pulled it together. Wrong hoop, wrong needle, incorrect underlay. That's the digitized, and it wasn't digitized correctly. And if you don't know digitizing, you may not know that. I don't know digitizing, so I don't know well enough. It's I know if it's too dense. I'm not so sure about the underlay, but you can check that out in a software like embroidery because you can do stitch simulator and actually see how it's going to stitch, and you see whether or not it has enough underlay. If it has been uh, the stabilization of the digitized design from the very beginning. It has to have the underlay, which is the stabilization of that design for all the rest of it to stitch on top of. If you ever pay attention to how it's stitching, because I watch my stitching, it's going to give you that underlay before it actually start doing the fill. Or if you're doing satin, it does the same thing. It goes around with the zigzag. It has that one straight, then it zigzags around, and then it goes back and start doing the satin. So you're getting that underlay. It's building that foundation for the thread to adhere to when it's stitching, and it has to do that. So if it's not digitized correctly, you're going to get a whole lot of stuff that's wrong. And the other thing that a lot of people don't think about, which I didn't think about either, because we had a conversation a while back about speed and everything, and I thought, okay, I'm going to see how fast I can run my machine, because I normally don't run my machine very fast. I definitely don't run it at capacity, which is 1,000 stitches per minute. I'm usually anywhere from the 5 to the 8. That's my range. Well, machine stitching too fast can also cause puffing. Did you know that? That vibration, it's moving. So you're getting, whether you realize it or not, you're getting some shifting because if it's going so fast that it has your whole machine doing the jitterbug. And trust me, I tried it one night, one Wednesday night we were here, and I amped it up to 1,000 just to see because I had never done 1,000 stitches per minute and I wanted to see how it was going to stitch. And that thing started jumping around and moving around, and I had my arm on here. This arm I love to use because your hoop. can sit on here and it stabilizes it even more so it's not flipping and flopping. It still was flipping and flopping and moving. I mean, that whole machine was just moving, and it was. I was like, oh no, that is way too much vibration for me. So I backed that puppy back down, like I back to 700, 800 is the max for me. I don't like stitching at 1,000, and I did not know, but the faster the machine is, the more opportunity for issues to occur with your machine, with your design, with the outcome. The slower the machine is, the better you can watch how it's stitching. Hopefully you can catch a problem before it gets too far and you can correct it, even if you have to stop the machine and get rid of some of those stitches or back it up or whatever it is that you need to do to correct it. I was working on the project today, watching it, paying attention, started stitching, and realized it wasn't put on correctly. And I was like, okay, hold up, stop. And I was able to catch it before it had stitched too much, so it made me be able to take it apart quite easily and put it on correctly without any issue. If you got it running like crazy, by the time you realize there's a problem, it'll stitch all the way around the darn thing 2, 3 times maybe, and you're stuck. You got something messed up because you can't undo it maybe. So slow the machines down. I'm not saying you got to run it at 300, 400, but uh, don't try to max it out. I know there are people that are doing commercial work, um, and they got to get a lot of stuff out because they got big orders and what have you. And they run the machine fast, and I guess that works for them. But I don't like the vibration. I just don't like how that feels. And if there's anybody on here that has a solution to that, let me know because um, I just couldn't do it. If you're running your machine at max capacity and it doesn't bother you, let me know because I tell you, I would like to know what it is that you're doing. Because not to say that I need to run mine at that speed because I don't. And but it is interesting, to talk about. And if it's possible to do without having any issues, I would like to know that. So let me know. Let me know. Um, so the formula for pucker prevention is hoop to stabilizer tight. Hoop to stabilizer tight, not the fabric. Also, you can use a light spray like a 505, lightly spray to keep it from moving around. You can choose cutaway on stretchy fabric. Make sure that the density matches the fabric, the density of your design, and slow down your stitching, especially if it's dense. And also, like I mentioned, you can do a binding box or something like that to keep it from shifting as well. Your machine hopefully has that capacity. This one does, where I can actually put a bind around. I can do that in engravings as well in my design. I can just set it up to put the binding around it, and then when you're done, you just take the thread out. And that just holds it in place. It's just an added protection. Some people pin. I don't like to pin. I know a lot of people will pin the edges around to keep things from shifting, especially if you're using your plastic hoops. I know a lot of people will pin because they're afraid that they're going to come apart. If they didn't have it screwed tight enough, and you want to screw it tight enough but not too tight. That's also an issue. So the option that some people use is to stick the pins in there which if you're careful and outside of the embroidery parameter, then it shouldn't be an issue. But since I use Mighty Hoops 99.9% of the time, I don't pin anymore. I have pinned before, but I don't pin. I use tape. If there's something that needs to be held down or held back or held on or whatever, if it's possible for me to use painter's tape or uh, some kind of tape that doesn't leave a residue, then some people use medical tape. There's different kinds of washi tape that you can use that's not expensive. For me, the painter's tape has been the most economical. I bought a thing of four, five, six of them in a pack out of Home Depot when I first started embroidering. I'm still using that same stuff. I think I may have two or three rolls left, probably two. But yeah, I don't use pens anymore. But that's an option as well. Now, think about it. What fabric gives you pucker every time? That fabric or project that you work on that causes puckering a lot. For me, satin, um, yeah, I guess that's what that is. Satin, organza, those that real light stuff are the ones for me the hardest. I do not like stitching on satin or organza at all, especially satin. Satin more so than organza. I haven't done a lot on organza, but the little that I have hasn't been too bad. But that satin, that stuff will run away from you like crazy. Minky is another one. Minky is all over the place. You have to be very careful with that. With even with the mighty heat, I still have issues with that. Digitizing is another. Why all designs are not equal. You have to make sure that you don't have bad digitizing. So that's why it's always recommended that if you buy a design, especially if you're buying designs from off of Etsy or people that you're not familiar with, you need to do a test stitch out before you put it on your main project. Because if you don't, you are subject to be disappointed. I have been disappointed many times buying designs off of Etsy. So buyer beware. They have some really cute designs sometimes, and 90%, I would say about 90% of the time, they've worked for me because I usually end up going back to the same people. But I have run across that 10% where they were just a hot mess. So you need to do your stitch out. Now the design houses that I routinely buy from, designed by Juju, Urban Thread, Embroidery Library, Stitchtopia, Sweet Pea, uh, Embroidery Garden. Those are the ones that I've been very lucky with and haven't had any issues with, and I've not really had to um, unless I manipulate the design myself, if I change the size or if I add something, take something away or what have you. If I do some editing to the design, then I stitch it out to make sure I haven't messed the design up. But if I get it and get it straight from them, usually I've not had any issues because they do a really good quality control check on their design. So normally they're going to stitch correctly. But if you're buying something from unknown people, and if you're something where you had it custom digitized by a digitizer that you hired, you definitely need to stitch your project out before you put it on your on the project itself, on the material itself, to make sure it stitches correctly. Especially the ones that you paid to have digitized, because you want to make sure that that person digitized it correctly. Even though you trust their work, hopefully, you still want to make sure it's going to stitch the way you want it to stitch, because that way the person has a chance to correct it if it's not stitching the way that you want, the outlook isn't what you were looking for. So do not forget to do that. Don't get too busy where you're not checking your stuff. Signs of poorly digitized items is if it's too dense, if there's little or no underlay, if you have the wrong full compensation, if it's an inefficient travel path, if the satin stitches are too wide. Those are things to take into consideration, and that will give you a hint that um, your design isn't digitized correctly. So do your stitch simulation on your software, and also do your stitch out just to see how that's going to work before you waste a good project. One way to reduce jump stitches, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves, I cannot stand jump stitches. I hate them. So try to choose designs with program trims or less jump stitches pretty much with the stitch simulator. Look for the efficient color sequences. Avoid overly detailed small lettering, because that's where they really are. And especially if they're so little and so close, you can't even get in there to cut these things apart. Oh, that drives me crazy. And then it says to slow down for micro text. So slower it goes, I guess. I don't know if that really helps or not, but I do know that you have to um, check your jump stitches if you're doing your simulator. Now there is a way to reduce your jump stitches in embroidery. I saw a demo. It just seems like a lot of work to me, because they were going through step by step and making little minute changes and stuff to get rid of the jump stitches. I'm not that comfortable with doing that because I don't want it to come undone, but there is a way. What I try to do is check to see if there's going to be a lot of jump stitches in the design, and oftentimes, especially on Etsy, you can kind of look at the design. They'll show you, especially if they have a video or something, and you can say, "Oh no, this ain't gonna work here," and then don't get it. If that's something that you want to avoid. Hi, Faker, how you doing? Um, so keep that in mind. Another thing, maintaining your machine, the silent stitch key. I mentioned earlier that the first thing I do when I turn my machine on is oil my bobbin area as it is required, as it tells you to. Your machine must be clean more than people know. Clean out that bobbin area often. Don't wait for it to start messing up. Don't wait until you get a bird nest. Don't wait until you start getting loopy, loops and all that kind of. The very first sign of an issue, you need to be cleaning out that bobbin area. And if you know you've used your machine a lot, you need to clean out the bobbin area. You need to do that on your embroidery machine and your sewing machine. You need to get in there and use it. And don't use any can air. No can air. That is very bad for your machine. Do not use canned air. I have a very good small vacuum. I love it. I had another one. It broke, and I got this one. It's a lot better. Costs a little bit more, but I like it. Has a lot of different attachments here, but it works really well. And I use a vacuum cleaner to suck the lint out, the dust out, and all that. But I also use my brushes. I use my brushes and I get in there and I do my thing. I try my best to make sure that I'm getting every little tiny piece of thread possible out of that machine because I do know, like Carol mentioned earlier, one little small thin piece of thread can jack up the whole machine and make your whole project a mess. And you can get bird messes like crazy. You can get skip stitches, loops. You can get just poorly stitched items just because you got some thread caught in the cutting area or something. So you need to make sure that you clean it out. Remove the lint and the thread shreds. Oil your machine as required. Replace the needle plate if it's scratched. Replace the bobbin case when the thread cuts the groove. Check your bobbin case for stuck thread as well. You can use a business card and slide up in there because it's flexible to clean out to make sure you don't have any lint that's stuck up in there where the thread goes. Clean that out and then check your thread path and keep it. One thing that I'm not that good at, but I'm getting better, is get the dust off your machine because it accumulates. Get the dust off the needle area. It accumulates. Keep your machine as clean as you possibly can. Some people keep it covered. I don't keep mine covered. I probably should. I thought about it several times, but I haven't moved in that direction yet. But some people do keep their machines covered. You can buy covers. You can have covers made, or you can make your own. But that's one way of keeping it clean as well, because that dust will get in there and it can cause problems. And the question is, when was the last time you cleaned your machine? Stop and think about it. When was the last time that you actually took time to clean your machine? Is this something that you consider a routine thing that you do on the regular? If not, maybe you need to add that on to your things to do regularly for your machine, even if it's just once a week, even if every Saturday, every Monday, every third Wednesday, whatever it is, just make it a habit of this is my cleanup machine day and get in there and keep that machine clean. Number 8 is tension. Now for me, it says it's an invisible art. I personally don't mess with my tension. Perfect tension is a balance. You don't want it too tight, you don't want it too loose. You want 1/3 bottom, like I said, and 2/3 top. That's the best way, and you can do your tension test. Check for it. If your tension is off, then your whole project is not going to come out looking perfect. Bad tension, signs of bad tension is loops, bird nesting, shredding, puckering, and tight pull when you're pulling the thread through. Does it feel too loose? Does it feel too tight? Has the pull changed? It was a little stiffer yesterday, today it's just running through. Those are the things that you look at. And then check your thread path often. Because if you're like me, I change thread, and I change thread a lot because I use a lot of different colors on my design, and I just tie my knot and pull it through. But because you tying and pulling, excuse me, pulling through, you do welcome the opportunity of it coming, the tension part getting off balance. Sometimes your thread will unthread. Believe it or not, you think like, okay, what happened? Yeah, you're constantly pulling it through, and the little bitty knots coming through and everything, and it can get off. And then all of a sudden your machine isn't stitching right or something's not going on, your thread's breaking or whatever. Check your thread path. Check to make sure that it is still threaded correctly because it may not be. And if you try to fix it and it doesn't work, My suggestion, what I do, I start from ground zero and I rethread that whole needle. That way I know it's going to be correct when I get through. If I'm trying to fix it here, fix it there, and it still doesn't work, I just say enough of that. And I just start from the very beginning and go all the way through all the spots and rethread the whole thing. And usually that does work. And the question is, who here is scared of touching tension settings? I'm not scared of it. I'm just not comfortable with it. I don't. I haven't done it enough to have the confidence that I can adjust my tension well enough if need be. And so far, I've been lucky and have not found that my tension has been off that much. I've tweaked it a little bit here and there every once in a while, but that's not a routine thing that I do. However, it is recommended that we do know how to adjust our tension because if we don't, then we can have issues. Robin says she her tension. No, she cleans her machine with every project. Oh, that's cool. Becca was saying about one of the ladies at her job just sold a 10 meter embroidery machine for what is it, $3,000? I wish you knew you were looking for a multimeter. I would have given it to you. That would have been a great gift. $3,000 for a multimeter. Hopefully it works well. That's a bargain. And Carol, you said when I pull my new thread color through, I watch the knot as it moves through the path and pull slowly. I do too. That's exactly what I do. I watch it go through to make sure that it doesn't come out from under the little tension holder and all of that kind of stuff. So that way you know that it's not, because it will mess up. It will come out and all that kind of stuff if you're not too big or what have you. If you pull it too fast, all of those things can happen that can get your thread unthreaded, and then you get the stitching and everything. Next thing you know, it's not stitching correctly. The machine making crazy noise, and your stuff looks a hot mess, and you got to stop. You got a bird nest. You got all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and it's simply because you didn't thread it correctly. Simply because you did not thread it correctly. And we talked about speed control, quality over speed, and better stitcher comes with slowing down. And I was not aware of that until I started looking at this information for tonight. I really never ever thought about speed because nobody has really talked about the benefit or the pros or cons of how fast you stitch other than for metallic thread. I always knew that you needed to slow down for metallic thread, but I never thought about what mattered as far as speed is concerned with everything else. But it does matter apparently. The recommended speed is as follows. Dense design, dense design, 500 to 700 stitches per minute. Metallic thread, 300 to 400 stitches per minute. You already know that. Freestanding lace, 400 to 600. I think I usually keep mine on 5. Applique, 600 to 800 stitches per minute, which is pretty standard. Because for me, that's the range. I don't go past 800. Normally, don't stitch below 500 unless it's metallic thread. That's my range for practically everything I do. Anywhere from 4 to 800. 4 being the lowest, and that is for freestanding lace or metallic thread. 500 to 800. I'm usually at 700. That's my comfort level. But I will up it to 800 because sometimes it looks like, oh my goodness, this thing is taking so long. But if you look at your timer on your machine that tells you how long it's going to take, you will see that going from, let's say, 7 to 8, you're not saving but a few minutes. You don't save a whole lot of time when you speed it up for a lot of designs. So what's the point? What's the point? So do you stitch fast or slow? I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. I don't stitch fast, and I don't go the lowest. And knowing your machine plus material. Some items you should not embroider on. Some items you just should not embroider on. Even though you can embroider on a whole lot of stuff. I found that out when I was doing different videos. Like I have embroidered on wood. I was surprised you can embroider on wood. It has to be the special kind of wood. It's got to be soft and it's got to be thin. And I have to look that up. I do have a video on it. If anybody's interested in looking it up and thinking about it, and your game at trying it, I do have a video that I made when I embroidered on some wood. So you can embroider obviously on leather and vinyl. You can do puff foam. You can do all kinds of different fabric. You can embroider on paper. We talked about embroidering greeting cards. You can embroider on paper and not tear the paper up. You just have to make sure you have the right um, design that is digitized specifically to embroider cards or on paper. Everything has to be done where it is digitized correctly. Your freestanding lace has to be digitized for freestanding lace. Your puff has to be digitized for puff. You can't just pick a design and decide you want to do something different with it. It's not going to come out right. So make sure that you know what your machine is capable of. And most importantly, pay attention to the sounds because it will tell you there is something going on. Your machine will make a noise or some type of noise that is different than what you may be used to hearing. And it is telling you, it's just like a cough. It's telling you something's wrong. And usually it's the needle. Usually it is the needle. So it will tell you something is wrong. And when it does tell you that, just be sure that you stop, pay attention, figure it out, and take the time to do your checklist and go through all the different steps to fix it. So you won't have that issue anymore because it will cause a problem with the outcome of your design. If you do all of these things, if you do all these things that we just talked about, then you should be able to switch out a really nice project. Oh, Carol, what did you say? You said, I thought, well, you put back over here. I thought the rule was if it does not move, you can embroider on it. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there because I want to preserve my machine, and I have to tell you there are certain things that I have not been comfortable putting under my machine. But that's more so on the sewing end. I put it that way. I've not used any. I've not used a fabric yet on my machine that uh, I felt uncomfortable. I've tried to see how it's going to work. 'Cause like I said, I'm leather or pleather or faux leather, however. I don't think I've used actually real leather yet, but I intend to. I have not yet done sequins but I have some, and I intend to do that. Um, I've done burlap, and that has worked. I did it slow, and I was very timid with it because I wanted to see how it was going to work. But I wasn't really worried because I've done denim, thick denim, stuff like that. I've done, you know, jacket backs and all that kind of stuff. Your machine can do a lot. It can do a lot, but I'm not going to tell you just go stick anything under there and hope it doesn't mess your machine up because you don't want to mess the machine up. It's too expensive. But um, it can do a lot. It can stitch on a whole lot of things, probably more than what we realize. And but you don't want to stitch over metal like people that put zippers and stuff, make these zipper pouches and stuff. Make sure you're not using metal zippers. Pay attention to the directions. Do not use metal zippers. You can mess your machine up. You've got to use the ones that look like metal, but they're plastic, and it will work over that. I've done that many times, no problem. Um, in fact, you said you want to try it on. I don't think suede is going to be any harder to do than using regular faux leather. It's the same. Just make sure you have the right needle for it. You want a sharp needle, 7511 or 8020, 8020, 8012, 9014, something like that, but you want a sharp needle because you want it to penetrate that, you know, into that. I don't think you'll have as much of an issue with the suede as you do with faux leather or leather because, once you put a hole in the leather or the faux leather, that mark stays there. So if and when you make a mistake using faux leather, you kind of own that mistake because even if you take it out and redo it again, a lot of those holes will still show up because unless you're absolutely lucky enough to make sure that those holes, the needle goes back into the exact same holes, which oftentimes does not happen, then you could probably end up still seeing those holes. But I don't think suede, I've not tried suede yet. That's a good idea. I think I want to try suede. Um, the next thing I am going to try is sequins, though, because I have some sequins, and I know all things shine from all things shine. She uses a lot of sequins, and she does a lot of stuff with sequins, and obviously she doesn't have any issues with it. And I've used yarn, no big deal. I haven't tried anything yet that didn't work, and I think if I was bold enough to try wood, I was nervous. I was nervous. But I tried it. It worked, no big deal, because I made sure and it took a minute to find the wood that they say I needed, and I did stitch on it, and I had it for the longest, and I don't think I have it anymore. I think when I got ready to move, I just got rid of it, but I'm gonna have to try that project again. But if you guys are interested in that, look it up because I did do a video and I put it up. Use stitching on wood. Um, what else different have I stitched on? Nothing that I can think of right now that's unusual. Um, but so, like I said, I think I might even try to do some of that over the Christmas holiday. The projects and stuff that I'm making, I'm working on several. Well, I have several projects that I want to work on. I'm working on one right now. And I have to let you guys know, I did do another Christmas skirt just like the one that I did 2 years ago with the group. I completed one and I did it for my girlfriend, the lady that I work for her Christmas gift. And I'm not spilling the beans because I've already given it to her because she puts her tree up right after Thanksgiving. And I knew she was going to do that. So I was working so hard. I was wearing myself out every extra minute I had. I come home from work, come straight into the studio because it took me a good 3 weeks to put that puppy together. And I was so glad and so done when I got done with it. It turned out really, really cute. Uh, so I did that. I had said I would never do it again, and I have to be honest about it. I don't think I'm gonna ever do it again. I honestly don't think I'm gonna ever do that skirt again. And I tell you, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but this is what I did. So that's what turned out. And I made it for my girlfriend. Mine is white, hers is red, and I was quite pleased with how it came out and all of that. But I tell you, it brother, so you still can't believe I did that. Oh, I did. I did it. I wanted to get it done, and I did it. But ooh, I was working my butt off to get that thing done. And Faker, you said I'm making some key fobs with suede fabric and embroidery on it because okay, that's cool. And Carol, you love embroidered cork. Yes, I do cork. I like cork. Cork is not hard. Cork and felt and vinyl, all that kind of stuff is just like doing um, cotton and all that kind of stuff to me. Um, so that's not too hard to do. And thank you so much, Robin and Faker, about the skirt. I was quite pleased. Oh, she cried. she, she loved it. She just cried. She cried to God of her ear when she burst for me. But yeah, she was so appreciative of it, and she thanked me for giving it to her before Christmas, which is what my plan was. Because, like I said, I knew that she put her tree up right after Thanksgiving, and I wanted her to be able to use it this year for Christmas. So that's why I was in such a hurry to get it done so I could give it to her. And it worked out perfect. The day I went over there, she had just put her tree up and was putting the decoration on it, and I gave it to her. She hadn't even put her old skirt out yet, so it was absolutely perfect timing when I gave it to her. I gave it to her 2 days before Thanksgiving, I believe it was. I was able to give it to her because, like I said, I knew her routine, and I was trying to catch it. I said, "Whew, let me get done with this thing," and I did. So I accomplished that goal. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time. We've been talking a lot. I just thought that this would be a good topic for people as a refresher because a lot of times you think people know things or remember things and they've forgotten it and everything. And it's important that we remind ourselves of what some of the basic rules are in embroidery if we want our projects to turn out correctly because you have you have to read you have to use put it correct. You need to use excuse me, Lord, my boy. You need to use the correct material for the correct project in order for it to come out correctly. Like I said, you need all of the ingredients. If you don't use the ingredients, it says if one ingredient is off, the whole thing is off. It's like baking a cake and don't put the sugar in it. Don't put the egg in it, or you don't put the butter in it, or whatever. Cake ain't gonna come out right. So it's the same thing. If you don't use the right fabric, stabilizer, thread, needle, digitizing, all of those things, people, if we don't do all these things correctly, your product is not going to come out right. So keep that in mind. Learn the different needles that you need to use and get you some needles. Don't get you one kind, get you 3 or 4 different kinds of needles because you need them. Keep them handy. Know what they're for. Know what projects you need to use them on and what materials you need to use it on. Same thing with your stabilizer. You need to have cutaway. tear away, wash away, and I do recommend poly mesh. Those are the four stabilizers you need to have in order to make sure you have what you need to do your work. And you will be successful. So, Faker, you said, what material did you use for the skirt? I just used regular cotton material that I got out of um, Hobby Lobby, I believe it was. I used, and the back is green. I used, let's see, here's here's the back, and I put a little note on the back of it, a label and everything to let her know so she can remember who made it and when it was made and all that kind of stuff. But it's just regular red material. They didn't even have, when I went to the store, they didn't have quote unquote Christmas material. I wanted something that had, I wanted it red, but I wanted it to have a little something in it. But it didn't. But this turned out absolutely gorgeous. I was surprised. I said, shit, I should have made it red. And then I was lucky enough to still have bits and pieces of Christmas fabric, which I had a whole tub full of. I didn't know I had that much of Christmas fabric left over from when I bought fabric for the skirt that I made. I went to Joanne and I bought like a quarter yard, several different Christmas fabric. So I still had plenty of that to pull from. So that made it fine. So the only thing I had to buy was the fabric of the skirt, front and back. I had that, in. So I was good to go. And I bought a boat of SF 101, which I put on there. And other than that, it was a go. So I was able to make the skirt, present it, and all that kind of stuff. So now we're working on advent calendars for our next social cruise, um, social society cruise project, which we did together on Wednesday night. So that's what we're working on. And yes, I've started on that. And the Jeanette's Elster project, which we have to mail everything in by Friday the 5th. I've completed that. I've been working. I've been working. I took these days that I had off for the holiday, uh, didn't do anything on Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and today is Tuesday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 5 days. I've had 5 days to work on stuff, and I have definitely put it to good use, especially since I got done with the skirt project. I felt so liberated. But anyway, ladies, I'm going to go ahead and say good night. Gotta get up and go to work tomorrow. We got a whole bunch of snow. It snowed like crazy yesterday, Monday. It snowed like, I don't know how many inches we got, but we got snow like crazy here. And thank goodness Monday was my day off, so I didn't have to go. And today was my day off, so I didn't have to go. But I got to go in tomorrow. And Leslie just popped in here. Somebody said hi, Leslie. I didn't see Leslie pop in, but hi, Leslie. And Jaw's mom, late signing in. You can hardly hear me. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm too far away. I don't know. And Leslie, I see you popped in, but somebody said hi to you. So you must have popped in at some point and I missed you. I saw Faker when you popped in. But anyway, I'm popping out because it is almost 9:30 here, so that's 10:30 where Eastern time, and elsewhere there's different times. And thank you guys for stopping in. Please give me a thumbs up if you have not subscribed. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, go to my channel, put in any kind of question, concern, issues, statements, suggestions, all of that for different topics. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here tonight and see you guys later next week. Hopefully, I will have something else to talk about that's interesting. Christmas is coming. We can talk about Christmas gifts. We can talk about what we're doing for the holiday, all of that stuff. So take care, you guys, and have a wonderfully blessed the rest of your week. And I will see you next week. If it's all the Lord's will. And yes, we will be getting together tomorrow night. So Robin and Val, if you're on here, and whoever else, Leslie, I don't know who else are listening out there. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow night, and the rest of you guys, I'll see you on Tuesday. Good night, everybody. Take care.